I just found the biggest thing holding Cardano back might be us. The ADA holders, yes. Cardano's own founder basically said that it is our fault that Cardano's DeFi is struggling. And honestly, he might be onto something. So, I'm scrolling through the latest crypto news like it's any other day when I see a headline that stops me in my tracks. Charles Hoskinson, the guy who created Cardano, is apparently calling out his own community. He's saying that our DeFi total value locked, basically the amount of ADA actually being used in Cardano DeFi, should be in the billions of dollars. And it's not even close, right? Get this, he blames us, the ADA holders, for that shortfall. At first, I kind of thought this was a mix of surprise and maybe a little bit offensive. Right, I mean, I'm an ADA holder, but how exactly is this my fault? But then I started thinking about it. What if he's actually right? Are we, as a community, not doing our part here? Now, this was a bit of a wake-up call that I didn't know that I actually needed. Now, I had to find out exactly what Charles had said here, why he said it, and what it could mean for Cardano's future. And of course, more importantly, what it could mean for people like you and me who invest in this particular project. So stick around, because this personal story might just change how you see Cardano too. Alright, so here's what happened. In a recent podcast, Charles basically said that if Cardano users actually used Cardano's own DeFi applications, the total value locked TVL on Cardano would be at least $5 to $10 billion. Now, for context, right now, it's only about $262 million. You can let that sink in, right? $262 million versus potentially $5 to $10 billion. Now, that's a gigantic gap, isn't it? Now, I did a double take at that number, right? Cardano is a top 10 cryptocurrency worth around $20 billion by market capitalization. Yet its DeFi usage is kind of tiny, barely over 1% of its market value. Now, to put it into perspective here, no other top 10 project or crypto with smart contracts has less than $5 billion in DeFi locked up. So Cardano has just a couple of $100 million, ranking around 24th by DeFi size. Ouch. And it's a bit embarrassing, I guess, for a project as big as Cardano. And Charles isn't blaming the technology or the developers this time round. He's actually pointing the finger directly at us, the users. He literally has asked, and I'm paraphrasing here, how can we convince users of Solana or Ethereum to come and play in our own backyard if our own people aren't even using our DeFi playground? Well, you kind of know what. The analogy hits home a bit, doesn't it? Right? It's kind of like if you open a shiny new theme park, but none of the locals actually show up to ride any of the roller coasters. How on earth are you going to get tourists to visit? Well, Cardano built the ride, but apparently even the hometown fans are just staying at home. So if we ADA holders aren't riding the Ferris wheels, then why would Ethereum people want to buy a ticket? Now, Charles is basically giving us some tough love here. So, why aren't we all using Cardano DeFi? Well, Charles rattled off a few different possible reasons. Maybe using Cardano DeFi is too technically challenging. Like the learning curve might be steep if you're not into hardcore crypto nerd, that is, of course. Or maybe people just simply don't trust it yet. And I mean, I don't really do any DeFi anywhere because I don't trust DeFi full stop. There's too many horror stories, right? But anyway, there could be other factors, security fears maybe. Nobody wants to be the victim of a smart contract bug or a hack, right? Now, it could also be a bit of user experience. Perhaps the Cardano DeFi applications are still a bit clunky or slower compared to what other people are used to on other chains. And here's the big one, low yields, right? If the returns for providing liquidity or lending on Cardano are low, then a lot of ADA holders might just shrug and say, I'll just stick to staking or hodling. Why the extra risk for maybe the same amount of reward? And you can't blame them, it's logical. Now, Cardano's native staking is so easy and relatively rewarding that it might actually just be stealing the thunder from the riskier DeFi plays. Hoskinson's basically said that this is a fundamental problem that the community needs to discuss and to solve. He's convinced that addressing these issues, whether it's education, security, UX, or better incentives, would actually make Cardano's DeFi usage explode. Remember that number that he threw out there, right? Cardano's TVL should be $5 to $10 billion instead of a measly $262 million. So if we were actually to hit $10 billion locked, Cardano would jump to number 3 spot of all blockchains in DeFi, right behind Ethereum, the king, and maybe Solana. Just imagine that then, right? Cardano's DeFi suddenly among the top 3. When today's, it's kind of like the underdog in 24th place. Now that kind of growth is massive, right? We're talking about 3,700% increase from its current levels. It sounds crazy. But his point is that it is possible if the ADA community actually showed up and used what has been built. Now, hearing those big what-if numbers might get some of us daydreaming about ADA, mooning, and all of that. But let's just hold on for a second because I do need to drop a rather quick reality check before we go any further. Now this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, so we got the important disclaimer out of the way, and honestly, hearing Charles say all of this kind of made me do some soul searching as an ADA holder myself. I had to ask myself, am I one of those people just not pulling their weight in the ecosystem? In some ways, probably, yeah. And I might be just the problem. I mean, I use Cardano for sure. I've been staking ADA for a very long time. I even run a Cardano stake pool, ticker 𝗗𝗊. More on that in a moment, of course. But when it comes to using Cardano DeFi applications, I'll admit, I've not really been there looking at it. Now, I remember trying out some decentralized exchanges in the past, testing out some lending applications, maybe considered it, but DeFi for me just isn't really my vibe. I don't really see the point in it. It's not for me, but it's not to say that it's not for others. So maybe there is a broader question here about the type of investors and the type of ADA holders that exist. Now, I'm definitely not what you would call a DeFi power user on Cardano, and I suspect that a lot of us probably are in the same boat. Now, we believe in Cardano and the technology, we hold ADA, we have stake pools, we make sure that it's decentralized and secure, and we talk about how great all the tech is. But we're not necessarily using the tech's DeFi elements. Is that bad? I mean, look, right, there is no judgment here. Cardano has made it super easy to just hold and to stake, and that part of it is really quite appealing, right? Staking ADA is practically set and forget with low risk, so no wonder why so many of us default just to that. Heck, right, staking is one thing that almost every single ADA holder I know should do, not because you can earn 4 to 5%, but, in fact, like I mentioned, I do run a Cardano stake pool with the ticker 𝗗𝗊, right? Shameless plug, of course, but sometimes I'm proud of it because it lets me secure the network and, of course, help other ADA holders earn rewards. Staking is really a no-brainer if you're holding ADA, at least for the long term, right? Your ADA is not locked up. You can move it anytime you want. You can stay in control of your crypto, right? It never leaves your wallet, and you still earn passive rewards every single epoch. So it's a great way to make your ADA work harder for you instead of it just sitting in your wallet doing nothing, right? Waiting for the price to maybe moon. So if you haven't staked your ADA yet, then definitely consider checking out my own stake pool with the ticker 𝗗𝗊. It's a super easy way to support Cardano and support this channel at the same time. And if you're already staking with another pool provider, but want to support the channel here and the mission that we do here, then you can always move your stake over to our stake pool, right? We'd love to have you, and truly it helps keep all these kind of videos coming, so thank you in advance. Now, staking aside, Charles's point is that staking alone isn't enough to make Cardano DeFi thrive, is it? Because staking rewards, they don't count as DeFi activity, at least in those stats. So what about the actual DeFi platforms on Cardano then, right? So we're talking DEXs, the lending protocols, the stablecoins. Right? They do actually exist. Cardano's got decentralized exchanges, things like MinSwap, SundaySwap, stablecoins like 𝗓, right? Liquidity protocols, you name it. That the toolbox is there, it's just not getting used as much as it potentially could be. And I guess that is frustrating for Charles, because it might be a chicken and egg kind of thing. People say Cardano DeFi TVL is low, so they assume that the ecosystem isn't really worth using, which leads to, well, nobody using it, keeping TVL low. It's a vicious cycle, right? The good news is that this story isn't over, in fact, far from it. Cardano's community and developers have noticed this participation gap and are actively working on ways to fix it. There's actually some exciting stuff on the horizon aimed at boosting Cardano's DeFi. For example, Cardano is looking to unlock Bitcoin and XRP liquidity for use on Cardano. Just imagine being able to bring your Bitcoin or your XRP onto the Cardano network and using it in DeFi applications. Now that could be a bit of a game changer. Now Hoskinson has hinted at this kind of cross-chain integration, suggesting that if Cardano becomes a hub where, let's say, XRP holders can earn yield or Bitcoin can be deployed trustlessly, it actually might unleash a flood of new liquidity. Now, there's talk of that potentially tens of billions of dollars of value from outside assets could actually eventually flow into Cardano's ecosystem if they get it right. Now, nothing, of course, is guaranteed. We gave the disclaimer, remember that. But just the fact that Cardano is evolving in that direction is also pretty exciting. It tells me that the low DeFi usage is recognized as an issue, and that they're not just sitting on their hands here. They're actually actively trying to open the floodgates in a rather smart way. Now, hearing all of this, Charles's challenge to the community, the potential of what could be, it got me thinking beyond just Cardano. Right? It made me reflect on how I manage my own crypto in general. Now, one thing that I always preach is being proactive and not having all of your eggs in one basket, whether we're talking DeFi or centralized exchanges or whatever. Right? For instance, when it comes to crypto exchanges, CEXs, CEX, then I actually have a personal strategy. I sign up, KYC if needed, and test out as many reputable exchanges as I possibly can. You never know, I should say, when you're actually going to access an exchange on short notice, right? You need to, you're going to have to do so. Or when you might actually have an issue or, an exchange might temporarily go down. So having a plan A or plan B, a plan C and so on, right, is going to be a smart move. So if that sounds paranoid, then consider how many times we've seen exchanges suddenly halt withdrawals, experience outages, go down for maintenance, or do an FTX and go bankrupt on everybody. Yeah, and it usually happens at the worst possible moment. Now, by having multiple accounts ready, I'm never completely locked out of the market. Anyway, speaking of exploring new ways to make crypto work for you, at least if you followed this channel, then you know that I'm always on the lookout for investing in interesting projects and tools within the crypto space. Now, one project that I've been talking a lot about lately is called Unity Nodes, and it is pretty cool. I'm not going to go too deep into it here, since many of you guys are already familiar. But essentially, Unity lets you turn your mobile phone into a part of a global telecoms network that verifies the telecoms grid. And for your participation, you get to earn crypto for doing it. Now, it's kind of like turning spare phones into little crypto miners that actually help telecom companies find any network issues, like call quality or cold spots, right? Now, I kind of stumbled upon Unity and it caught my attention as a fantastic project that's driven from World Mobile and Minutes Network, a collaboration between the two. The concept is rather unique. Every kind of verification call that your phone makes through the Unity app actually helps strengthen the network and gets rewarded in crypto. And you can be choosing different cryptocurrencies to be paid out in. Things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, ADA, XRP, right? Some of the big names that are out there and many others too, right? So as part of my crypto journey, I actually decided to give Unity a shot. I actually purchased a Unity Masternode NFT, which came with 200 licenses. Now, what does that really mean? It means that I can run the Unity app on up to 200 phones, if I wanted to. Now, I'm not going to go crazy and set up 200 devices in this apartment. That would be crazy, right? The idea is to spread those devices out as far and wide as possible. Now, I'm starting small with just 10 phones when the Unity app goes live, just to see how it all works in practice. If it goes well and the rewards are worth it, then I'm going to scale this up gradually as I kind of unlock new geographical locations. The idea is that each phone will be doing its thing, verifying the network integrity, and I'll be earning a little bit of crypto from each one of them. Like I mentioned, right? I like to opt to get my payouts in things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, ADA, obviously, and XRP, basically stacking more of the cryptocurrencies that I already like, but doing so passively. It's a pretty great way to potentially earn crypto passively over time, almost like staking, but with phones doing the proof of work style tasks. Now, and of course, I'm treating this as an experiment. It's not guaranteed riches or anything like that, but I do find it a fascinating concept. So if you're curious about Unity, definitely do your own research on it. I'll put some links in the description down below to the Unity light paper and the rewards calculator so that you can check everything out for yourselves and crunch all of those numbers. As always, know the risks and only invest what you can afford to potentially lose. The usual kind of common sense stuff does apply here. I should also mention that I want to step further, or at least I went a step further with Unity. I actually ended up purchasing a second and third Unity node. Now, the reason is that I know that not everyone can or wants a full master node, right? I mean, who wants to manage 200 devices, right? Or buy the master node, because they're not necessarily the cheapest thing for the regular retail investor who has a 9-to-5 job. So, with this kind of second and third node, I'm planning to lease out the licenses to people who are interested in Unity, but maybe just want to try it out with maybe 2 or 3 different phones without buying an entire node for themselves and having to worry about 200 devices. Now, this way, people can participate on a much smaller scale and by essentially just renting a license from me. This is a win-win situation. It's actually, I think, a win-win-win situation, right? Because you get to utilize one of my licenses or multiple of my licenses, right? You get to earn crypto rewards. We'll do a 90-10 split, 90% in your favor, 10% just supports the channel here. And it actually helps Unity because these devices have to be spread out far and wide to get the maximum potential. So if you're looking to kind of test out Unity at low cost, then we'll have more information about on all the leasing and how it all works down in our free educational Discord server. The link for that is also in the description below. So if it does pique your interest and you want to stay up to date on how all of my little experiments are going here on my Unity side, the 10 phones that I'm running and how that pilot goes, then definitely hop into the Discord. It's a free educational community where we talk about projects like this and things in crypto all the time, right? I'd love to see you there. And I'd also love to hear all of your thoughts on everything that we've discussed today. Now, let's get back to the Cardano story, because this whole Unity adventure, at least of mine, actually kind of ties back to the much bigger picture here. Because whether it's Cardano DeFi, running a stake pool, or experimenting with Unity, the theme here is actually taking action and getting involved with the technology. It's not just passively holding some coins. Like Charles Hoskinson's message really did drill home for me, right? Crypto projects, they succeed when the community uses them, right? Cardano has all of this potential. It has this great technology built over years of research and development. But if we, the very ADA holders, the early investors, just sit on our coins and never actually engage with the community and the ecosystem, then we're kind of just missing the point and leaving some of the value on the table. It's actually pretty empowering when you think about it, because if the biggest thing that is holding Cardano DeFi back is just the community's behavior, then that's something that we actually have the power to change, right? It's not an unsolvable technical flaw, is it? It's just some external enemy. It's not an external enemy. It's just literally us, and that actually means that the ball is in our own court, right? We, as a community, can decide to step on up. We can educate ourselves on how to use Cardano DeFi platforms safely. Maybe we test things out small scales to start with, and then as we get more confident with it, we scale up, right? Start small and build. Now, we can demand better user experiences if that's the issue. We can support projects that are building them by giving the feedback. Now, we can, of course, provide liquidity too. Try that out on new Cardano dexes or lending protocols, mint some new NFTs if we're into that kind of thing. But again, the NFT space is a bit weird, so participate, I guess, with caution with that one, in my opinion. Anyway, we can also participate in the governance votes, right? That's why we're a DREP here as well. Now, all things that show life and activity in this ecosystem, even small actions done by many will add up. Right? Cardano's got millions of ADA holders. Even if just a fraction of us start using the network more actively, it can actually make a rather huge difference. Now, I do get it, right? Not everyone is comfortable with DeFi, and not everyone has the time to mess around with experimental applications. And you know what? That is okay. I'm not saying that you must go out and farm yield or some kind of random Cardano protocol that you know absolutely nothing about. Definitely do your own research and only, and I want to repeat this, only do what fits your own risk tolerance, right? But if you do believe in Cardano's long-term vision, as I do, and it might actually just be worth at least exploring what the ecosystem has to offer beyond just holding ADA in your own wallet. Even something as simple as staking, which again, a lot of us already do, is a step in the right direction because it signals engagement and secures the network. And if you're feeling a little bit more adventurous, maybe dip a toe into Cardano's DeFi applications, with a small amount, of course, just to learn the ropes. You might find it much easier and more interesting than you actually thought initially. And the more that people do that, the more feedback developers get in order to actually improve things. One thing about Charles Hoskinson's approach here, calling out his own community, is that it's a bit unusual. Right, most project founders would shy away from scolding their holders. They would actually focus on preaching about how they're better than Ethereum or bragging about some kind of future roadmap. No, Charles instead basically said, hey, ADA community, we kind of suck at using our own stuff. It's harsh, but in a way I do respect it. Right? It is honest, and it lit a fire underneath me. And to be honest, sometimes we need that tough love in order to spur us into action. Right? It's very Charles, I guess, to be blunt like that. And I think that it started an important conversation. I kind of saw a lot of chatter online from ADA holders going, you know what, he has a point. Maybe we should actually take a closer look at what we're not using Cardano's, or at least why we're not using Cardano applications, and what it is that we're not actually using if we don't know yet. Right? It's not about blaming anyone here. It's actually just about recognizing that there is a problem so that we can all try to fix it. For me, that key realization was that Cardano's success, it isn't just up to IOG or the developers building on Cardano. It is actually up to all of us, the everyday users. Right? We have more power than we actually think. In crypto, communities often make or break a platform. So let's just think about the big DeFi booms of other chains. They were fueled by communities diving in head first. Cardano's community is huge and it is very passionate. Right? If we harness that and actually start using Cardano like we actually mean it, then I honestly believe Cardano can catch up in the DeFi race. Maybe it won't happen overnight, but it could happen faster than people expect once momentum kicks on in. It's kind of like a sleeping giant scenario. Cardano's DeFi is a giant that's just been dozing, and all it needs is a collective nudge from all of us to wake it up. So yeah, Charles basically gave us a challenge, and I'm accepting it. I'm going to make a conscious effort to be more active in the Cardano ecosystem, whether that's trying out new DeFi projects on Cardano, contributing to growing my stake pool to support the network, or just helping educate other ADA holders about these options. Because at the end of the day, Cardano isn't just about Charles Hoskinson's, or isn't just Charles Hoskinson's baby, is it? It's all of ours. Now we, the community, have been here through the ups and the downs, and we're the ones who will carry it forward. And I find that rather inspiring. It means the power to change Cardano's trajectory is literally in our own hands, or maybe in our wallets. Now, if you want to see Cardano thrive and reach that $5 to $10 billion DeFi potential, then we can't just sit on the sidelines anymore. We have to be the ones to make it happen. Now, I'm going to leave you with this thought. It's easy to complain that why isn't Cardano as big in DeFi as Ethereum or Solana? But if you're holding ADA, you need to ask yourself, have you explored what's already out there on Cardano? If not, maybe you should give that a shot. You might actually discover something rather cool, and you'll be contributing to Cardano's growth in the process. We can't, or at least we can all be, I guess, the catalyst for the change that we want to see. I, for one, I am excited, and I'm a little bit nervous, I'm not going to lie, to see how our community steps up to this particular challenge. So if you found this video entertaining, or maybe you've learned something new, you can hit that like button for me and the subscribe button for more of these kind of personal crypto adventures and updates. So thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one.